Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf. I'm joined by Riley Fessler. How was your long weekend, Riley?
So good. I feel so rested.
Do you feel rested? That's good. It felt like a long weekend to me. I mean, it went on and
Yeah.
on. And now, Minna Stein, who is also joining us, we are 3 weeks away from Election Day. How do you feel about that?
I feel less good about that than I do about the long weekend, but I'm
Well,
knocking on all the wood.
knock on all the wood. Everybody, knock on all the wood. Although somebody once told me only knock twice. If you knock 3 times, it irritates like the wood nymphs or something that are the ones who give us good
Oh,
luck. And so it's when I once I heard that, then I never knocked 3 times again because I just didn't want to take it. Like, what if it did? Like, what if it was? I was trying to have good luck, but I was doing it in a way that ended up producing bad luck.
yeah, Harris doesn't need that. Let's keep it to 2 knocks.
Yeah, I don't believe all this propaganda. We'll talk about it at some point. Riley, rather than going down the well of Minna's insecurities about America's future, why don't you start us with a story about something?
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin
Ah,
Netanyahu.
welcome,
Is that
welcome
not the
back,
name you wanted to hear?
welcome back from your 3-day weekend, everybody.
And now you miss my insecurities.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's go back to Minna's insecurities, her disinformation-driven
Yeah.
insecurities. Go on.
Benjamin Netanyahu has informed the Biden administration that Israel plans to target military sites in Iran rather than oil or nuclear facilities, aiming to avoid a broader conflict while still responding to Iran's recent missile attacks. While Washington has expressed concerns over any strike on nuclear facilities, Netanyahu's decision to focus on military infrastructure has been met with some relief in the U.S. In response, the U.S. is sending a THAAD missile defense system to Israel, underscoring its commitment to Israel's defense.
But not just a THAAD missile system, is it, Riley? There's something
No,
more that goes with it. What goes
no,
with it?
I don't know, but
100 U.S. military personnel.
oh boy,
Yeah, yeah.
I,
So
I I don't love that.
yeah. Well, that's we're going to have a nice target with 100 U.S. military personnel right there in Israel, in the middle of all of this. Anyway, please continue.
The Israeli strike is expected before the U.S. election, and Netanyahu continues to consult with the U.S. but maintains that Israel will act in its own national interest, which is no surprise.
Yeah, and by its own national interests, he means his own interests, and that means prolonging the war. But let's take a step here because it is the first day back after a 3-day weekend, and Minna is in a downward spiral. So let's lift ourselves up just a little bit and give some props to what was clearly a big frontal effort by the U.S. diplomatically to persuade Netanyahu not to respond immediately, not to respond against targets that would be inflammatory, either the nuclear sites or the oil and gas sites, because obviously the sites in their energy sector would have a devastating effect on their economy, and also, by the way, on world gas prices, which might have an economic effect here. Uh, and somehow they have managed to get this put off a bit. And surely this air defense system is part of that equation. And it has the advantage of being a defensive system. And so something that is much less likely to be controversial here in the United States. I note that, um, and can't help but also observe that there have been recently attacks both in Lebanon and in Gaza that have had high civilian casualties that have involved the use of U.S. weapons. And sooner or later, there's going to have to be a reckoning on that. But for now, 3 weeks to go, I think the objective of the Biden administration is to somehow persuade Benjamin Netanyahu not to be the October surprise, right? Not to be the guy who causes something that sends everything off track. I'm not saying everything of it is about a U.S. election, but 3 weeks before the U.S. election, a lot is. Minute.
Former President Donald Trump criticized Fox News on social media, claiming the network has become too lenient towards Democrats following its announcement of an interview with Vice President Kamala Harris. Trump specifically targeted anchor Brett Baer, suggesting he is too soft and would prefer a tougher journalist for the interview. He also attacked various Fox personalities, alleging that a spokesperson for Harris has significant influence over the network. Trump expressed frustration with Fox's current direction, stating it has, quote, totally lost its way. Despite his criticism, he continues to appear on the channel, including an upcoming town hall event. Fox News did not respond to Trump's remarks.
There's so much there to unpack. First of all, did you see Trump's town hall last night, guys?
I've heard about it, but have not seen anything from it yet. But I heard it was quite the spectacle.
Yes, but I haven't been able to bring myself to actually watch it.
So Trump's doing a town hall with his moderator, dog killer Kristi Noem, and suddenly, before it's over, he says, let's not do any more questions. Who the hell wants to hear questions? Let's just listen to music. And for 39 minutes, he just stands on stage, bobbing like one of those, hardware store Santa Clauses you see sometimes that are just, will like rocking this way and rocking that way and, singing a Christmas carol. And he does it, by the way, to a bunch of songs he surely did not have the rights to, because one of them was Sinead O'Connor's Nothing Compares to You. And Sinead O'Connor personally would have, bit Trump in the testicles rather than let him sing that song. But, it is such weird behavior. And I wish I had it in front of me. The New York Times described it in this kind of unbelievably New York Times Trump both sidesing, auto-tuning, the emperor has beautiful clothes way, calling it his, improvisational deftness or something like that. Like, oh, he's just throwing a little curveball at the audience. And the Washington Post actually describes it more accurately, describes it something like his bizarre bobbing and weaving. But dude is losing it. I mean, his brain is soup. It's like Campbell's cream of racist soup. There's nothing left there. He is not functioning. And the most pathetic part of it, Riley, when you go to look at it on your primary news source, which is TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, whatever it is that Trump starts doing this arm thing that he does. And Kristi Noem is like, what the fuck do I do? And so she starts doing it. And so they're like standing.
So everybody was doing the Trump, which is.
They're like standing there on the stage doing this thing. It is so deeply weird. And literally
awesome.
Somebody should have come after the dude with a butterfly net, taken him off to the home. The idea that people want to place him with control over the world's largest, most sophisticated nuclear arsenal is so like frightening. It's like, oh, I'm going to put all my children in the back seat of the car and I'm going to have the dog drive it to New York City. It's like, what? What? It's that insane. As far as the Fox thing, it's kind of interesting. Kamala Harris is, going interviews everywhere all the time, which sort of undermines the Trump campaign, although the Trump campaign still in the midst of this managed to say, well, she still hasn't done a formal press conference. Meanwhile, the only questions he answers are from right-wing, hacks like Hugh Hewitt, and he lies in every answer. It's not doing, media. It's not answering the public's questions if you're lying. It's the opposite of that, right? And she is going to do Fox News, and there is talk that she's actually going to go on to your favorite podcast, Minna, and that is Joe Rogan.
You know me. I love Joe Rogan.
I thought you were going to say Talk Tua, but Joe Rogan's a close second.
My two favorite podcasts.
I got to say something. I get like a press thing. Because we do so many podcasts here, ladies and gentlemen, we get a lot of people pitching stuff to us, like weird books, some serious books, which we'll talk to the people about, but also like weird story ideas. Riley gets a lot of them, and he sends them to me, and he says, "Should we do this?" And it's like, "Are you kidding me?" But call me when you got a good talking Malamute story from TikTok. I want to have one of those on. But I've gotten like 2 or 3 from the Hawk Tua girl, press agent. Now, how does somebody go from saying what she said, and I'm not going to get into the meaning of Hawk Tua, or Hawk Tua, depending on how you pronounce it. But I actually think it's Hawk Tua. But in any event, how do you go from that to having a press agent? You're having your own podcast. It's like there's something so wrong with celebrity in America, because people think about like why people are following this woman, right? Like, oh yeah, no, I'll listen to that podcast. I'll listen to that. That's, she obviously knows. What does she know? Well, anyway, in our changed media environment, Kamala Harris is playing this exactly right, going where the audiences are, talking to people, doing a good job. And I just want to say one last thing here, because for Minna, she hasn't made a wrong move yet. All the bullshit you're seeing, like she's losing her mojo, is the press doing what the press does. If once you're the hot news story for a few weeks, then they want to bring you down. Maybe they'll do your comeback a little bit later, but we're in the phase where they're doing that, and they're augmented by literally scores, 60 or 70 fake polls that are sponsored by Republicans or PACs or other groups, biased, that are telling a story that is just fake. It's a fake narrative. And so they're saying, well, she's not doing so well. Her campaign is doing great. She's going to win the popular vote. She's going to win the electoral vote. She's going to win the House of Representatives. She might even hold on to the Senate. And I'll see you the morning after Election Day, Minna.
I don't think she's losing her mojo. I don't think she's losing her mojo. I think she's doing all the right things. That's not why I'm scared. I'm scared because we're 3 weeks away from the election, and I'm feeling the heat because it's a very important election. I'm feeling nervous, but not because Harris is doing anything wrong. I think she's killing it.
By the way, that's all I hear from everybody. Everybody's nervous.
Yeah.
It's like a moment of shared nervousness by rational people who are like, are we going to do the crazy thing? Are we going to do the thing that could destroy our country? And if we do,
I sure hope not.
If we do, Riley, we're blaming Ohio. So
hey, we did our best to send a Trojan horse into the Trump camp to make it spontaneously combust with JD Vance. So.
And it doesn't seem to be working.
No,
it doesn't seem to be working. People, they're like, yeah, sure, he's a liar and he's a sleazebag. And he thinks, women are objects that men own. Yeah, okay, fine. We'll take that. It's like Netanyahu getting stronger in the polls. Having a stronger coalition. What? I mean, is this Earth 2? Am I having a dream? Is this not the planet that I was born on? Do you ever wake up and think, this is a simulation? This is the Matrix? Riley is computer generated?
Yes, I do think that, and that's why I'm feeling a little nervous about the election.
Riley is a glitch in the system. That's my whole theory of this.
It's a good theory.
Yeah,
that might be true.
It might be true.
I can neither confirm nor deny such claims.
Yeah. I was watching the new season of Law and Order. No, Law and Order was one of those shows. And the plot was about a guy who develops an app that has like an artificial male avatar and women could date it. Mm-hmm. And the women prefer the app to real men. And so some guy wants to, and then I don't know, the guy who invents it gets murdered, and we have to figure out why. But I'm like, we're pretty close. We're pretty close. You know, we're talking to the Riley avatar every day as if he were a real person.
Mm-hmm. The difference is that women don't prefer me to real men.
Well, so. It's a different algorithm. You might want to get that looked into at your local algorithm specialist, Riley.
Local Best Buy.
Is that where you go to?
The Geek Squad.
Geek. Riley is a product, a fantasy of Geek Squad. All right, Riley. Show us you're a real human.
Oh boy. Relations between India and Canada have deteriorated further as both nations expelled each other's top diplomats following allegations that India's government was linked to the June 2023 killing of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Nijjar, an advocate for an independent Sikh homeland, was fatally shot in British Columbia, with Canada now accusing India's top diplomat of involvement in the plot. India has rejected these claims as politically motivated. This latest development adds to already heightened tensions over the assassination, with both countries accusing the other of undermining their national interests. Despite strong trade and defense ties, the issue of Sikh separatism has long strained relations between the two countries.
You know, you gotta believe this actually happened. The reason I believe it actually happened is Canada doesn't take inflammatory positions recklessly. Canadians are fundamentally nice. I mean, have you ever been in a Tim Hortons? Even if there's a line, people are nice to each other in the line. They're all excited about waiting to roll down the rim of their coffee cup and see if they've won the Tim Hortons competition. They're all excited that, maybe there's another donut down the road for them, or a Labatt's beer, or whatever it is that, really plucks the strings of a Canadian heart. But in this particular case, there seems to be a lot of evidence that Indians did this. And one of the reasons that it's plausible is that the Modi regime is doing this kind of thing at home as well. And they're a danger. And I think one of the stories here is we talk a lot about Indian democracy. We talk a lot about how much we need India for the Quad to be our partner. But Modi is pushing India in an authoritarian, anti-democratic, Hindu nationalist direction that is completely consistent with Putin, Orban, Trump, Netanyahu, Bolsonaro, Erdogan, and characters like that. And it's a very disturbing trend, which we've tried to report on periodically. And Riley, I think it's proof of your fundamental humanity that you are willing to bring this story up.
Thank you. I'm glad I could prove myself today.
You are not.
Dispel the rumors.
You are not an algorithm. Minna?
In Rutherford County, North Carolina, recovery efforts from Hurricane Helene have been hindered by an armed threat against FEMA workers, leading the agency to adjust its operations for safety. William Parsons was arrested for making threats while armed, but it was determined he acted alone. Misinformation surrounding the disaster has spread, prompting FEMA and officials to clarify the situation and encourage those in need to seek assistance. President Biden announced $600 million in aid for areas affected by both Helene and Hurricane Milton in Florida.
As you said that, I thought, the beauty contrast America ought to be having right now is misinformation 2024. And, you could be in it, Hawk 2, a girl could be in it. There are a lot of people. who could be competing for this title, because misinformation is driving this campaign. And the problem with misinformation, as you know, is not only that it's not true, but a lot of the far right misinformation lands on the ears of people who are too stupid to know it's misinformation, or whose wiring is faulty, whose algorithm is faulty, like this dude in North Carolina who believed these kind of crazy stories. Like there's the story that the Democrats were controlling the weather so that they could go into this town in North Carolina, I think, and steal all the lithium from the lithium mines. I mean, it was some crazy thing that nobody with above, so maybe an eighth grade reading level would believe. But there are a lot of people who don't have an eighth grade reading level. And in fact, there's a good Peter Baker story in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago, in which it was noted that Trump speaks at a third or a fourth grade reading level. Most presidential candidates, political candidates, speak at an eighth grade reading level. But Trump speaks at a third or a fourth grade reading level. And, is this purely because Trump's a dummy? No. It's because that's how you connect with this audience. And this guy, complete lunatic, bought this story hook, line, and sinker, and put FEMA workers who are actually there to help people at risk. And so, that's why this whole campaign is likely to be driven by misinformation. And by the way, I would include in that misinformation, and somebody ought to do a big story on this, all these fake polls. All these fake polls are skewing the polling averages because people are reporting polling averages and not individual polls anymore. And so, they realize, let's just flood the zone with Rasmussen-like polls or worse. And people are going to say, well, we've got to treat that as the same as more legitimate polls. It's disinformation. Someday we'll discover the Russians paid for it. Riley, this is all incredibly depressing for me, and I demand that you end on a more up note, something positive, furry, friendly, that likes bamboo.
Wow, it's an oddly specific request. But thankfully, two giant pandas, Qingbao and Baoli, are being transported from Chengdu, China to Washington, D.C. The pandas, both 3 years old, are traveling aboard a FedEx cargo jet nicknamed the Panda Express and are expected to arrive today at Dulles International Airport. Their move comes nearly a year after the last giant pandas left Washington as part of China's panda diplomacy. The zoo is raising $25 million to support conservation efforts, including protecting panda habitats in China. And I should note that it will be several weeks, according to the article I read, before they're actually out on display. So even though they're arriving today, you will not be able to see them for a little bit.
Right. And so whereas Minna is worried about the next 3 weeks till the election, Riley's trying to figure out, how am I going to wait several weeks? And he will undoubtedly be there in his sleeping bag, as he has been many times before, sometimes running afoul of the law, right in front of the gates of the Washington Zoo, waiting to get in.
Beat the teeming hordes to get to the front of the line so that I can see the pandas.
To see his panda friends. Look, pandas are great. They're kind of dumb, but they're cute. And they're not bears, as we know. They're related to the raccoon family. And they're kind of slow and they sleep a lot. But they do a lot of antics, apparently, because on TikTok I see a lot of panda antics, which I like. I have to tell you. I mean, I've watched them for a long time. So in my algorithm, TikTok, the Chinese government goes, oh, Rothkopf likes pandas. We will send him more panda videos. And Riley's TikTok feed is all pandas all the time.
It is 90% animals. That is 100% accurate.
Mine
I'm like,
too.
ooh, what is
Well,
this person's cat doing today?
Mine too. And I have to say, there's something about that. I mean, first of all, you've proven once again that you're actually a human, Riley, and we're relieved. But and not a fake Riley that has been placed here by Russian intelligence services. But there are a couple of dogs and cats that I know more about their daily activities than I do my closest relatives. Oh my God, don't tell me he ate the meatloaf off the counter today. That's so cute. Um, do you follow these things too, Minna, or you're just busy reading Kant and Heidegger and stuff like that?
It's mostly that, but I also follow Mudang very closely.
Yeah, I hate Mudang.
I know you do.
I have to say, I'm not much of a Mudang fan either.
What? What's wrong with you guys? You're both AI generated.
No, we're not.
What the hell?
Mudang is a plot. Look, Mudang. First of all, the most deadly of the big five animals. The great five. When you go on a safari, they're the big five. The most deadly, hippopotami. Okay. Secondly, Mudang, not attractive, slimy. Is a slimy little gray monster.
But that's what makes her so cute.
What does Mudang like to do? Bite people. Mudang is not friendly. Mudang isn't cute. Mudang doesn't roll over and let you scratch her belly. Like a panda holds on to the feeder's leg, and the feeder can't walk around, and the panda's holding on the leg, or the panda rolls down the hill during the snowstorm and likes to play in the snow. Mudang doesn't do any of that shit. Mudang just likes to stay slimy and bite people.
That's why she's cute, though, because she's so tiny, but she's so full of rage. And it's what's that tiny hippo going to do? She can't do anything, but she's so angry at the world. It's very cute.
Yeah, well, that's your spirit animal. Back in the day when we started out Deep State Radio, somebody decided we each would have spirit animals. And people were so into Deep State Radio, as many more are now today, but they created Twitter accounts back in the day. That Twitter accounts were a thing one wanted to create for each of us. And Rosa's spirit animal was her dog, Scout, which is still her spirit animal. And so there was an account called Rosa Brooks's dog. And for some reason, somebody decided that David Sanger's spirit animal was a tardigrade, that little tiny creature that, also known as, what are they? Water bears, they're like molecular. They're small, but I didn't get one. So then I said, "Well, my spirit animal is a pastrami sandwich," and immediately there was a website, David Rothkopf's. A Twitter account that was something like David Rothkopf's pastrami sandwich or something like that. Brief, short. It was short lived. I will know we have really arrived here when there's a Twitter account called Minna Mudang Stein, or Riley false flag avatar Fessler.
Now hold on, I don't like that one. The human false flag, that sucks.
Well, it's you have to prove contrary or offer up your favorite. What's your favorite pet, Riley?
Favorite pet?
Favorite, TikTok animal.
I really like otters on TikTok. They don't come up that often, but sometimes somebody will have an otter, and I have to watch it.
Dude, okay, we can't go on. We've gone 30 minutes. But I just want to leave you and anybody else. My sister, host of Secret Life of Cookies, has the same affinity for otters. Google otters, okay? Google why are otters terrible.
I don't want to break the illusion.
No, otters are rapists. Otters are horrible animals. They look cute, but it can be misleading. And
Dolphins.
dolphins are lovely. Now, dolphins can occasionally do something a little, untoward, but most dolphins are perfectly nice because cetaceans, as you may know, have the most crenellated brains of any creatures on Earth. And crenellations in the surface area of the brain increase the surface area and are considered to be the key to intelligence. This has been such an instructive DSR Daily. I hope all of you appreciate it and immediately go and tell all your friends to join up and become paying members here, where you will get more information on otters and how bad they are, on Mudang and how bad she is, on crenellations in the brains of the cetaceans, which is the whale family but includes dolphins. There's a lot here beyond foreign affairs, and we hope you're here for it. But until next time, be well, everybody, and avoid misinformation. That's why you come here. We've got plenty of interesting pods this week. Join us for them. Until then, bye-bye.